Bing, 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 bong. This one is creepiest Easter eggs from non-horror games. What's an are Easter eggs? I feel like Easter eggs are in everything, yeah? Sick, bro. Oh, look
What's
at
up,
us
guys? It's
leaning back.
Gamedo Gaming. I'm back for another video. We're talking
It's your boy
scary
leaning back.
stuff. So I've been talking
Scary
a lot about
stuff.
creepy things and family-friendly games recently on the
Scary,
channel, but
spooky.
today I
Here, let
want to
me.
take a more general look at some of the creepiest Easter eggs found in non-horror games.
Scary
Easter eggs
stuff.
are more or
I
less
fall
usually
back.
added in on
I'm
purpose by the devs and sometimes have a backstory and
uninstalling.
explanation, but
I'm
sometimes they don't,
uninstalling,
which in
dude.
turn can make them sometimes even more creepy. I think what makes these Easter eggs
Dude,
we'll
it
talk
is
about today
vibrant,
so impactful
honestly.
is because they seemingly come out of nowhere and generally
Should
shift
we
the
have
tone of the game in a more dark direction,
any
especially
closer?
since these games aren't typically
Hey,
considered horror games. Sure, some do have horror elements in them, but overall most of these games wouldn't be standing toe to toe with old
spooky
PT in terms
Minecraft
of being a
Easter.
horror
Whoa,
game or
that
something.
is
Anyway,
fucking
let's go ahead and
terrifying.
hop in and take a look at 8 of the strangest Easter eggs from non-horror games I could find.
The alien in Kinduraten. There's an alien in the back in the staircase. Bully, crying baby.
Rockstar games are always chock full of Easter
Oh, look
eggs,
at this
whether they're
Mikey.
creepy or not. You know, some of them are just
What is
plain out
that?
dumb. Chock full of Easter eggs, whether they're creepy or not.
Is
You
that
know,
in the
some of them are just
beginning?
plain out dumb.
You eat babies. You have to survive. Everyone knows that.
This isn't just in the
I'm a
obvious Grand Theft
vegetarian.
Auto or Red Dead series either, as many of these
You never
offshoot
heard of
games
egg
also have a fair
noodles?
share of their own creepy Easter eggs. Now, I'm not saying you're going to see the ghost of John Marston hitting a nasty serve back to you in Rockstar Presents Table Tennis,
You eat babies.
but my point is, games like
You eat
Bully also got the
babies.
same love the Grand Theft Auto series got when it came to Easter eggs. There are several Easter eggs in the game that reference other media like books and films that are easily
Spook.
seen, but by far the creepiest Easter egg in the game
That
is
one kind
actually
of makes
pretty hard
sense
to
to have for
find. When
Bully.
you are strolling around New Coventry, catch me out with the boys in New Coventry at 4 p.m. on a Tuesday, you can run in between these two buildings and wait a minute to hear a pretty disturbing sound effect in the game. If you want to hear it clearly, it's recommended to turn everything except for the game sound effects down to 0 to isolate this creepy audio track. If you do this, you'll be able to hear a crying baby inside one of the apartments on the other side of the wall you're standing on. This is only able to be heard when you visit the area from 8 a.m. to
That is
6 p.m.,
spook.
but if you come back after hours when it's dark, you can hear an extension of the baby's audio track. Come back after you punched a teacher in the stones and juking out a fat nerd. Past 6 p.m., you'll be able to hear not only the baby screaming, but a lady occasionally screaming on and off as well. At first, this could sound
She
like some sort
screams
of
back.
ghost lady maybe shrieking and messing with the baby, but when you take a look at the game's back end and search for the individual audio files, you can see this Easter egg's true meaning. All credit for this, at least my research, goes to Nathan NS on YouTube for delving deeper into the
That is
audio
cool.
files here, but it reveals that all the audio files of the
Whoa.
lady screaming are actually titled Domestic Fight 1 through 3. There's 3 domestic fight audio files in total, which all sound pretty similar, with the Fight 03 missing the woman screaming altogether, and is likely the same one that can be heard during the day of just the baby crying. However, in this setting, we can also hear crashing sounds, and since the title of these files is Domestic Fight, I think we can all assume what's going on inside there.
What?
This is pretty dark even in terms of a Rockstar game. Like, yeah, sure, the disemboweled corpse of a human being is pretty scary and off-putting, but hey, at least it's interesting. Like, who done it? Who's responsible? This Easter egg, this just pisses me off, man. Like, there's nothing you can do either, as it's just an Easter egg and it happens nightly, so there's no solution to this terrible thing happening in Bully's universe. Compared to the rest of the game, this definitely stands out, as Bully, while
Yeah,
it's not the
what?
friendliest game, it definitely has its moments, but this seems out of place for a game like this.
Get out of here, you little scum!
So I guess the rumors are true, Jimmy. Your dad does live on campus.
Like, I don't think this would be any less disturbing in Red Dead 2 or something, but some fucked up stuff can happen in that game too, so it wouldn't be as surprising. But I guess that's what makes this Easter egg stand out so much in the game. If you're unlucky enough to pass it by randomly, you won't soon forget it.
Never forget.
Red Dead Redemption 2
R2.
alone
Oh,
houses many of
a
Rockstar's
Red
best
Dead. I
and
need
most
to
disturbing Easter
like.
eggs, some of which I think some
Imagine if I
people are
saw
still finding.
GTA
This
and
is
I
just due
didn't
to the
know it
game's
was
mass and how much time and development
Grand Theft
went into the
Auto.
world that you play
Like
in.
that's how I
Much of
feel
what
when
the
I see
game has to
RD
offer isn't in the
R2,
main story path at
Red
all,
Dead
and if you want to
Redemption
discover even a little bit that's
2.
under the game's surface level, then it's time to hit the old trail, partner. Hey, partner. I always say it with a D, not
Hey,
not a
partner.
T. Partner.
Pardon.
partner. Hello.
Hey, pardon her? No, pardon her. Sorry. While there is a lot to see in
Pardon
the world of
her.
Red Dead 2, there's a lesser known Easter egg that I don't see talked about super often, and it's pretty dark. Maybe not so much if you play Red Dead
There's
like
like a
me on
time
the second
traveling
playthrough of the
baby.
game where I pretty much antagonize, defuse, then shoot, and that method has served me pretty well thus far. But if you're not desensitized to the world and are fully enveloped in being a good Arthur Morgan, then you will likely find the
Yeah.
next Easter egg pretty disturbing on your playthrough. In a seemingly abandoned shack in an
Is
area
this
known
the
as
time traveling
Clawson's
baby?
Rest, Arthur can break down the front door and find a pretty grisly scene. You'll find two small kids deceased in
No.
the main
Oh my
room of the
god.
home. They seem to have died of starvation as the player slowly finds more and more evidence of the children running out of food. They were seemingly left by their mom, who was going to take revenge on a bunch of bandits who stole from them, and stated that she'd board up the door and there's enough food for 4 days and she should be back well before then. She stated not to go out for anything, and after she didn't return, the kids listened to their mother to the T and didn't leave or let anyone in for any reason, resulting in them slowly starving to death. Let's go! Starvation. You can actually find the food rations they'd
What?
gone through well before you arrived, and you can even see a makeshift butcher table where it's believed they were catching small rodents like mice to eat. The Easter egg gets a bit deeper as you can actually catch up with the deviants who the mom was looking for and find out what happened to her. I credit Strange Man on YouTube for this information as I
What?
watch his video for my research on this topic, and if you want to know a bit more about the entry, I recommend checking out that video. Anyway, when you arrive to a building in the middle of the woods near an area known as Ches Porter, don't know if I said that right, you can hear two men talking about how they kidnapped a woman and eventually their dad killed her and buried her out back in the woods.
You sees when I get a woman like that, don't you? Frazzle dipping all the night.
Frazzle dipping your little pullywag more like.
We has that one we keeps in the woods. Pappy was boiling when he sees her, don't you?
No real surprise there, as the mother would have definitely went back if she survived, and the kids would have been alive too at that point. This is extremely
What?
dark. I mean, there's no way around it. It is something that probably happened all too often back in the day, at least back in the day when the game was set in. And even to some of the happened all too families I killed randomly, like maybe I
I
should
don't know
stop
why it does that. It's been doing that randomly.
doing that. Nah, fuck it. Nah, but for real, this is a pretty dark Easter egg, and it gets even darker when you
Yeah, that
realize
is
this
wild.
wasn't the original plan for the side story of the game. By digging through the files, players have found evidence that the player would have originally been given a choice of how to interact with the kids upon entering the cabin, one of which was sending them to a nearby sheriff, meaning they were alive. However, as we know, this was ultimately removed and the kids' fates were sealed. There was also a change that showed the mom might have also at one point died at the
What?
cabin during the robbery that took place, as there is a model of a dead woman lying on the bed in the cabin in the code of the game. This might have been the setup for the choice of what to do with the abandoned kids who would have still been alive. It's clear Rockstar wanted to go full pedal to the metal in terms of making Red Dead 2's world a very dark one, not only in the game's story that tells a very solemn tale, but the stuff you can run across on a day-to-day basis in the game. It's pretty real to life in that way, I think. You never know what you'll run across, but rest assured it'll probably surprise you, especially if you run into my Arthur Morgan. Oh, watch out. Oh, might drag you behind my horse at 70 miles an hour. Oh.
Oh, I like that. That game seems fun,
Death
actually.
Stranding
What
was
the
my
heck?
favorite game when it came out, but I ended up beating it, and throughout my time with the game, I enjoyed it for what it
This kind of
was.
looks
The
like No
game had a
Man's
lot of
Sky.
charm hidden behind the menial tasks you had to perform as the main gameplay. This charm comes through in things like
Two open
cutscenes,
world like
humorous
that, though,
moments, or
gives me,
even
like,
moments that aren't supposed to be funny, but
anxiety.
definitely are.
What? The guy from...
Yeah. Like Mario and Princess Peach.
Princess Beach?
Really?
This is a ridiculous game, and I'm glad to see they're leaning into it more in the sequel because, like, what the fuck is this shit? Listen, y'all think fucking Alucard shredding an electric guitar as an attack is weirder? Or this little puppet dude hanging on your hip? I still can't tell. It's keeping me up at night. Regardless of what the hell's going on in the second game, we don't have to look too deep to find some of the stranger things in the first
What
Death
game is
Stranding.
this?
For example, in Sam's home base, there are several Easter eggs that can happen here, ranging from humorous to downright creepy. For example, if you stare at Sam's crotch too much, he'll react as if you were actually peeping at Norman Reedus's big hog in real life. Listen guys, I swear to God, I looked this Easter egg up. I didn't know this from playing the game, okay? Another weird thing that is housed in Sam's headquarters is the shower. This is just usually an off thing you can do in his home, like drinking a big juicy Monster Energy drink. However, if you're playing the re-release of the game, i.e. the director's cut, a strange creepy thing can happen. When you awake randomly one night, you will find Sam looking over to the shower, revealing a large shadowy figure silhouette. As Sam approaches the shower, the figure inside will start to shake vigorously until banging around the shower.
That's so scary.
Then it freezes and the camera slowly zooms in before the glass breaks. The entity comes running out and grabs the camera and jump scares not only the player but Sam himself as he jolts awake,
He's got
realizing it was a bad
glasses?
dream. A fucking nightmare. Many players have deemed this to be Lisa from PT, and it is a direct reference to her from the cancelled Silent Hills game. I'm unsure if this has ever been confirmed by Kojima himself or anybody who worked on direct reference to her from the cancelled Silent Hills game.
It
I'm
doesn't
unsure
look
if
like
this
her,
has ever
but
been confirmed by Kojima himself or anybody who
it looks
worked
like
on
that
it, but
guy
the way
more
the
with the
entity
glasses.
moves, I would be surprised if it's not at least a small reference to Lisa from PT. Yo, what up? It's me editing this. Real quick, I wanted to say, when the entity pops out of the glass and jump scares the player, it reveals that, I didn't see this the first time, and it reveals that it's the same slime monster from another nightmare sequence that is supposed to be a direct reference to Hideo Kojima, because the slime monster looks like he has glasses on, and they took that same asset and used it as the entity in the shower for this jump scare. So I don't know if that disproves that it's Lisa, but it also kind of says
moves
it's,
like
it's the
Lisa.
goo version of Hideo Kojima. It could just
It's
be
funny how we were like,
placement
it looks like that
for,
guy, and
the
it
entity
was
that
that
pops
guy.
out of the shower, so they didn't have to port Lisa
That
over
is
or whatever. So it could still be a reference to Lisa from PT. But
I think it
it's
is a
also
reference to
Gooigi
Lisa.
version of Kojima.
Gooigi.
Kojima, if you will. Anyway, back to the video. Just want to clear that up a little bit. It seems there was quite a few of these dream sequences added into the director's cut of the game, as there is a kind of a disturbing one where Sam can be seen walking out of his room and he finds the literal ocean right out front, and before long he's almost eaten by a giant whale that swims by. Both of these are creepy as hell, but nothing is as creepy as when Dead Man forces you into the shower in order to tell you something off record so the mics in the room can't hear him. But in doing so, he comes off like a pervert creep. Like, this dude's just in the shower, full suited up, taking the warm shower water right to the face, all while breathing his stank tuna sandwich breath right in Sam's face. Ugh. I'd rather shower with the ghost lady than ever have Dead Man infiltrate my shower like that. Bro is a fucking creep. All of these things really make me enjoy the world building of Death Stranding all the much more, but also makes me yearn even more for a Kojima-led horror game like Silent Hills. The atmosphere of some of these nightmare sequences in Death Stranding proves that Kojima understands the strangeness of horror and how not only to make it scary, but build the world around it to match the scariness in terms of things like atmosphere, visuals,
is he just constantly waking up, or what?
Which has always been great in Kojima games, don't get me wrong. With the second Death Stranding coming in the next few years and the announcement of a new stealth IP coming from Kojima Studios, it seems like we won't be seeing that Kojima horror game anytime soon, but as long as he keeps adding in Easter eggs like this, I think it'll hold me over for the time being. I just really hope they don't go too cheesy with the second game and make it more dark than the first game. The sequel seems to already be addressing some of the complaints of the first game, so I'm hopeful that this will at least match the atmosphere of the first game, which I was a pretty big fan of.
God damn, this game looks sick as hell. COD's finest hour Ghost from
The COD series is no stranger to having Easter eggs hidden without, but in my opinion, the first COD on console still has one of the creepiest Easter eggs in the series since. This is a fairly well-known Easter egg at this point, but I feel like with every subsequent COD release, this game gets more and more obscure, so I want to talk about it today. Call of Duty: The Finest Hour was the first Call of Duty released on console, and it released back in the day for PS2, Xbox, and even GameCube in 2004. The game definitely shows its age today, but it's still a classic to go back to, especially compared to the real stinkers they're putting out for
What's the lore
the
behind
COD
it?
series nowadays. Holy shit. You know, this was back when the series wasn't fully after the bag and they were in it for making a good fucking game instead of a buggy, disrespectful to the fans piece of steaming dog shit. Call of Duty Finest Hour had a decent campaign that had a lot of small details, including a pretty creepy Easter egg. In the level known as Underground Passage, there is a large door that seems to be a dead end, but if you huck a grenade at it, it reveals a secret room behind the closed door. This room was clearly meant to be hidden away and not found by many, as the contents of the room are strange to say the least. I'm unsure if there's other walls
Oh,
throughout the
floating
game that you could blow
candles?
up like this, but I don't remember it being that common when I last played it, so you really had to know what was behind this wall to even find it in the first place. Inside the room, you can find a bunch of oddities, including eerie pictures of kids on the
What?
wall, strange kids' toys moving on their own or throughout the room, floating candles like you're getting your grub on at Hogwarts, and even this giant caged rat who makes definitely not rat noises.
Prevent the Germans from
Not to
using
mention
true
there's a
sewer
crib in the middle of the
systems.
room, and if the player walks up to it, a ghost soldier of sorts will vaguely appear and walk around the room at a weird angle. The whole scene is very choppy and off-putting, and while you can find some weapons in the room, it seems like the room is there just to be a creepy side area. I don't know what's the creepiest thing in the room. Immediately I want to say this giant-ass rat in the corner or the floating candles, but I think the scariest thing is the
Whoa.
pictures on the wall. These seem to be real people,
Yeah,
as
that
they aren't
is
as ugly as
sweet.
the in-game
It's
models,
gotta be
and
the
mostly are
dev.
children and even a cat. There's even this weird fetish one, but I'm not going to talk about that, alright? That's just weird as fuck. And yeah, it's truly the darkest thing in the room if you really break it down.
Okay, back
but
in
I'm
the
sure
day, I
this is
feel like
just
that just
one of
used to
those
be a meme.
developer appreciation rooms or
Or their
something to
version of a
commemorate
meme. Now
developers
they're
and
like
what's
fetish.
special to them, like children and pets and stuff. And I assume this homie over here didn't have anyone, so he dressed up like a baby as a meme. Regardless of all of that, without the context, this room does come off as pretty creepy, and I can't imagine being
I
one
like
of the
that
first
theory.
people to discover this back in the
They're
day.
submitting
Imagine
each
trying
one
to convince
person,
somebody this
one
existed.
developer.
Dude, you're lying, alright? There's no fucking baby room in Call of Duty Finest Hour, okay?
You a me or a jump
Earthbound and the
scare?
Mother series are some of the most influential RPGs and JRPGs of their time and have inspired a plethora of similar strange RPG style games like Undertale and more to a T, Omori. Omori is a game that I saw being talked about a bit when it released, and I saw that it's got its pretty unique take on the style of RPG and was deemed one of the best of its kind when it released. The Easter egg we're going to talk about today has to do with something the player does a decent bit throughout the game and actually acts as more of a jump scare than anything. When a player interacts with any of the 11 mirrors in the game, they have a 1 out of 20 chance of getting jump scared when revealing the character's reflection in the mirror. This comes out of nowhere, and the fact it's on an RNG timer like this, you could technically see this the first time you interact with a mirror in the game, or you could never see it. I have a fear of mirrors as I grew up with the Bloody Mary craze and the whole mirrors or separate dimensions era. I don't know if that was a new concept back then when I was a kid, but I remember hearing a lot about it. Thus, I'm scared of mirrors, alright? Hey, Guerrero, are you sure you're not scared of mirrors because of your own reflection? Hey, good one, dude. I haven't heard that literally any time I brought up that fear. But nah, my fear of mirrors really skyrockets this one to another level for me, as it's not only a jump scare, but a jump scare that occurs in a mirror. This isn't your typical ghost appearing jump scare, but is more akin to the void meme category of internet horror, where there is usually a lot of distortion to an image to the point where it's almost not even the same picture anymore. In the case of the mirror jump scare, it only stays on the screen for a few seconds and really makes the player question if what they've seen is even real. What really doesn't help the player feel sane is if they go back to the mirror to check if what they saw was real, there's a good chance it will just play out like a normal cutscene and not give them the jump scare again. This had to make a few people feel like they were going fucking crazy. You've lost the plot, mate. After researching this entry, I've been avoiding looking into my bathroom mirror. I'm scared I'm just gonna void meme out into an alternate dimension beyond my medicine cabinet, guys. I'm thinking about taking it down. I'll have a mirrorless bathroom from here on out. Katana Zero was one of my favorite indie games for a while after it came out. There's a lot to love in the game, from the action-packed gameplay to the gripping, intense story that was being unfolded in the strangest ways. Like, I'm not even sure I even really know what happened.
I barely know
in the
any
game,
of these
and I beat
video
it twice.
games.
The game is definitely darker in its overall tone, dealing with things like PTSD, but it never got anywhere as disturbing as the final hidden boss in the game. Alright, technically a hidden boss isn't an Easter egg, but this is close enough, alright? And any excuse to talk about this thing, I'm gonna take it, alright? Throughout the game, your character interacts with a psychiatrist who is also his prescription doctor, who gives him medicine throughout the game, this mystery medicine. To me, this guy was sus off the rip. but he was one of the only
He got the
characters you would
juice.
see often and reoccurring, so it gives you a sense that he might actually be on your
I
side
like that
throughout.
animation.
However, in the game specifically, when talking to the psychiatrist, you have different dialogue choices pop up, and if you respond negatively every chance you get, then at the end of the game, there's a secret boss fight that will unlock. Many people think the Headhunter is the true final boss, but this secret final boss is definitely way more of a spectacle in my opinion. The psychiatrist gets pretty angry if you carry out all the negative responses throughout the game, and upon visiting him for the final time, he will inject
That's
himself
what my
with the medicine
therapist.
he's been providing to the main character, and the boss battle will begin. At first, the psychiatrist seems to just have transcended or something, as he's on his Jesus type
What?
beat with
That's
his
the
face.
sauce
It
that he
starts
was
getting
giving
pretty
us, so he
strange
gives it
as
to
you begin
himself.
winning the
So
battle. He
like,
will transform into an
what?
insane
Was it
acid trip
good?
where you're attacking eyes. After this, the truly disturbing part of the battle begins as the psychiatrist starts to mutate like some freak you'd see out of a Resident Evil game or something. However,
Oh,
he takes it to a whole nother level. This guy, he started juicing, he couldn't stop, and it got out of hand pretty quickly here. The boss has several heads and it will start spawning these little small meatballs. That's the best way I can describe them. Overall, the battle is pretty involved, and upon defeating the boss, the screen glitches and puts you back where you and the psychiatrist are sitting in the same chairs you guys did throughout the rest of the game. Except this time he's got a
What?
fucking sword in his eye. This guy, he threw everything against the wall in order to defeat the player because you pissed him off throughout the game, and in the end, it still wasn't enough. Katana Zero has a lot of this spectacle throughout the game, and with an interesting convoluted story, it's one of the best 2D indie games I've ever played. I heavily recommend this game if you still haven't played it yet.
That is wild. Weeping Angel, the TV show?
There's several games that have referenced the Weeping
No.
Angel statues from Doctor Who, and every time they make an
Oh,
appearance, they usually surprise the player, if they even notice it. It doesn't always have to be a statue, but the basic idea is when someone is looking at a statue or object, it doesn't move, but upon looking away, it will either slowly creep up on the player or just teleport around. This is a pretty common occurrence in games as a creepy Easter egg devs like to add, so instead of covering one in depth, I decided to gather 3 of my favorite examples of this. Let me know down in the comments if you know of any other of these Weeping Angel statue examples in other games.
whoa,
You
that's
don't have to
cool.
look super far in Witcher 3 to see something messed up or creepy, but this Weeping Angel reference happens in one part of the map and is largely unnoticed by most players who might pass upon it. However, if you're
I
familiar
like
and
that
visit the house near a
type of
graveyard near
Easter egg because it's
Lindenville,
not
you
like
will
specific.
find these 2 statues standing out front of this crypt.
Whoa.
After exiting the crypt, you'll likely find the statues in different areas out front, and if you're unlucky enough, it'll be toe to toe with Geralt when he exits the crypt. He's breathing down your fucking face like a dead man. The statues don't do much beyond scaring the absolute shit out of anyone who entered the crypt, so you won't have to worry about fighting them, but their appearance alone is enough to make me rather fight anything in the game rather than run into these guys again. Give me that big ass Griffin guy again, huh?
What
Give
was
me Peter. Give me
the
Peter Griffin,
Batman
alright? I'll
statue
fight
one?
that fat fuck. Listen, Dead by Daylight
Peter
is technically a
Griffin.
horror game, but I have over 200 hours in the game, so now for me it's just another day at the office, alright? But regardless, if you're already scared shitless running from the many killers in the game, then you likely won't like this next Easter egg, which is a Weeping Angel Easter egg in one of the maps in the game. In the map known as Sanctum of Wrath, there are these monk-like statues with large round
Oh,
bald
didn't they
heads,
take like
and
the
as you
server
walk around
down
the
for
map,
this
their
game?
heads will follow the survivor or killer.
Alright, look at this, huh? Oh, that's a nice map. Holy shit, you're looking at me!
This is why I think this might be the scariest thing in the game, because it doesn't matter if you're the little man or the big ass samurai killer. You're getting man or the big ass samurai killer. You're getting stared down by these 8 balls over here. You know, thinking back on it, I never really noticed these with my time on the map. To be fair, I'm usually focused on staying away from the killer and doing generators. But now knowing these guys were always staring at me unless I was looking at them, makes me feel a little unnerved thinking back to it. Not to mention the map itself is pretty dark, so to even notice something like this, especially during a match, it would definitely shake someone. They might even choke out a couple skill checks here and there, alright? Thinking about the baldies. Battlefield 5 wasn't my favorite Battlefield game, and I don't think it was for a lot of other people. But hey, at least it wasn't 2042. I don't know, that game could be better now with updates and stuff, but holy shit, that launch was pathetic.
I'm sorry, I don't play video games that lie to me.
Anyway, the developers of Battlefield 5 had a little bit of fun with a particular object in the game. In the conquest mode of the multiplayer, if you load up the Eris map and spawn near point A, you can find these small gnomes littering the area. If you end up attacking one, it will break, and seemingly that's the end of it, right? However, if you are walking around the area and quickly check your 6 for that oh so scary sniper, you might find the angry spirit of the gnome stalking you. It gets to a point that if you stick within an area of the map, the gnome will keep stalking you as long as you're in that area, but only when you're not looking at it. It's equipped with glowing red eyes. I like to think this might be the angry spirits of the gnome you attack to start this Easter egg, but it could also be one of the gnome's homies just trying to get revenge. I'm unsure if the gnomes do anything beyond just scare the shit out of unsuspecting players, but this one is kind of just more
Oh,
funny to me than anything.
they don't get shot? Angry gnome.
I was a pretty big fan of the Gears franchise back in the day. It's blossomed into something else at this point, I think. But
Is
the
that
first three games were really stellar.
is it
Not only did
Wi-Fi,
they
you
have
think?
convincing and dramatic, went all out
I don't
updating the
think
Gears
so.
formula, introducing a lot like new enemies and saying farewell to old friends. God, I still can't get over that one. Whew. In the multiplayer map known as the Slab, there are several oddities around the map, but by far the creepiest one has to be the death row laughter that occurs in the corner of the map. The player must guide this ball to a small hole in the gate that leads down a dark hallway where we can see someone attached to what appears to be an electric chair. If the player successfully guides the ball into the small goal, a rat will bolt out, and if you choose to kill the rat, you will hear a deep laugh seemingly coming from the death row inmate. However, if you don't shoot the rat, then the laugh still happens, but it's also accompanied by a crowd's laughter as well. That's just strange to me. I don't know. And it's honestly a bit more unnerving than just the solo deep laugh. And why does it matter if I kill the rat or not? I guess the audience didn't like the fact you gunned down a defenseless rat or something. I don't know. There are other things around the slab that stand out, like these weird X markings, in which Odd Header on YouTube and others found that these are not actually part of the same wall entity like many of the other graffiti in the map, leading players to believe this Easter egg ran a bit deeper and utilized more of the map itself. There's more to this Easter egg, like developers talking about the Easter egg online before deleting their tweets, and other developers completely forgetting the original purpose. So for now, this Easter egg remains unsolved and is on the top of a lot of players' hit list to try to figure it out. Maybe one day in the future we'll get an answer, but with flaky developer answers and the map already being dug through pretty much fully at this point, seems kind of unlikely. Well, in my opinion, that was some of the creepiest Easter eggs in non-horror games that I could find. What did you think about the video in this
Ooh, that
topic?
one was the
Leave me
scariest,
a
probably.
comment. Let me know down below. Is
Holy
it something you
crap.
guys want to see more of? Want me to
You like it? I'm spooked, to be honest. I think I shit my pants.